Okay, this is going to be a weird episode because we are going to speedrun some bug fixes. The first one is we can't see what the active letter is when we're changing the names of things. We can't see where we're selecting. So first things first, we're going to make the active letter blink, which means I'm going to need... I don't have my blink function yet, so where's all my util stuff? That's good. We'll just put it at the bottom here. So we're going to make a function called blink. All this is going to do is send back true or false at a particular interval. And if the thing is true, then show it. If it's false, then don't show it, which will let it blink. So if time is equal to some kind of calculation and gives me a 0, then return true. Else, actually I didn't even have to else. I can just go end and then return false, because that'll be the default behavior. Type it in 1. Okay, but then we can't just go if time is equal to 0, because that'll never happen, because by the time it's executed to here, the app is already run, and time is in milliseconds. So let's integer divide that to 200, which will give us a much smaller number, so that's a fifth of the speed minus a bunch of zeros. So I don't know, there's some maths involved. And then modulo 2, which essentially means if the result is even, then we send true. If it's odd, then we send false. And because it's so we can manipulate the speed of our blinking by changing this division to make it faster or slower. But I've done this a bunch of times in other games, and this is a speed that kind of works for me. Okay, so I've decided to rather make the arrows blink, but there we go. Them's the blinking arrows, which then move along to where we are editing the thing, because this is the main reason why, because there's no letter to blink when we are here, so the arrows still blink, which I think gives a little bit more feedback. How this is done is like such. Firstly, I drew a couple of arrows, and you can't really see it here. You can see it. What did I do now? Did I just... Something just exploded. My whole palette just cleared. What did I do? Palette's back. Golden rule of computing. Something goes wrong, you fix it. You never know what went wrong in the first place, but it's fine now. Anyway, so the text here is 3 pixels wide. You can kind of see here, it's going to go game over now. But you can kind of see that the T is 1 pixel to the left and 1 pixel to the right of the downstroke. So these letters in this font size are 3 pixels wide. There you can see as well with the J is the left, the middle, and the right pixel. They're all like that. So my little arrows are 3 pixels. I tried drawing them 5 pixels. It looked terrible, so I made them smaller again. So that they, if I run this, so that they line up like such. They look really weird if they're larger, but this neatly lines up. Okay, the code for that in input, draw name input, is like such. Okay, firstly, the letters are just back to a single print for each of the letters. And then for the arrows, I've done if blink then, and it's just the 2 sprites, 320 and 321, because 320, 321, like such. And then I calculate where they should be based on what the current letter of the UI is. So I took the same code that prints each letter, which is UI break plus 4 times _i, and instead of _i, because I'm not in a loop, I just use UI current letter. So it'll always draw the arrows in line with whatever is the current letter. And then this was just a bunch of min-maxing and like running it over and over until I found the numbers that worked. Okay, I also discovered a bug. If I'm busy editing the name, and I move off to the left, that's a problem. It's a relatively easy fix though. It is in inputs, game over, is high score, we've got this stuff. Then pressing left, we move our current letter one to the left, and then we check if it is greater than or lower than or equal to 0. Here's the problem. Arrays in Lua start at 1. So this needs to be 1 and 1, which will then prevent me as to the right, to the left, can't go further left than this. Okay, then I'm now going to add the ability that if you move to the right of this, it goes to like a submit on the right. And also if on any of these you press X or A or however you number your buttons, then it'll go to the submit button instead of submitting immediately. Okay, so here's what I've come up with. I've added the word done on the right, and I've made this all a little bit cinched towards the middle so it looks a bit neater. Now if I move to, this is index 9, if I move to index 10, then it blinks under the word done, and then if you select it, then it commits the apply script. Just no. Okay, how this is done. Firstly, in input game over, when I'm moving to the right, I've added the ability for my current letter to go up to 10. Now we know when we hard-coded this before that the name is 9 characters. So if it's at 10, then index 10 is the submit or the done button. Then in draw name input, I'll get back to this in a second. When we draw our arrows, then we still draw the arrows for every letter as normal for the current letter UI, but if it goes to 10, in other words, if our current UI, I wonder if I should make that in capitals. If our current UI letter is equal to 10 and it's blinking, then we draw a line under the word done. Otherwise, we draw the little arrows above and below. Right, so that has the effect of, also because I submitted my score, I now need to get 3 fruities before I can poop. Okay, so now it does the thing where, oh, I'm about to demonstrate another bug. See this space? It doesn't save that space. Then it does this, and then if I move to the right of that, instead of drawing this at 9, it draws the line blinking underneath the word done for 10. Now at this point, if I'm over here and I press the submit button, it still straight submits it. So what I need to do is, if I'm submitting and my current letter is not 10, then I should make it 10. Otherwise, we actually submit. But if I now submit this, you will notice that there's a space there, but when it saves, the space is gone. Okay, so how we fixed the not saving spaces thing, see? Not saving, there's space in there, and now if I commit, see, there's the space there. How I fixed this is a 2-step process. Firstly, the reason that it wasn't saving the spaces is because when it gets a letter and the letter is a 0, it was returning from my sub a letter 0, which is a nothing. Which means if it tries to concatenate that to the name that I'm saving, oh wait, add new score. Here we go. Which means I'm now getting the letter to concatenate to my name of my new score, and it's getting a nothing. So it's concatenating nothing. So the space is going missing. So that was problem number 1. So how I fixed that was in getLet. When I'm asking for the letter 0, I'm returning a space, which means I convert at runtime all zeros to spaces. Okay. Then the problem is, now when I write my text over here, or when I write it to memory, this is all going to be spaces to the right of this to fill the thing, which, to be honest, doesn't break it. I just don't feel it's very neat. So, to fix that, I added a bonus step with this little trim function, which is something that a lot of coding languages have built in, the idea of string.trim, but Lua unfortunately does not. I did not write this function. I found it online and adapted it to my needs, but essentially what it does is it starts on the far left, it keeps looking for spaces until it finds the first letter. It essentially keeps looking through spaces, and as long as the left letter is a space, it steps to the right until it finds the first non-space. Then it starts at the right at the length of the thing, and it steps back until it finds the first non-space character, and then it just substrings from L to R, giving the middle section, which means theoretically if I'm committing a score, like this, with a bunch of blanks and the name like in the middle, those blanks would also disappear. To confirm, oh, they don't. Oh, because in add new scores, I need to actually set that to that. Let's try that again. Now I need to score 3 to make this test work. So 1, oh, that's a tricky one. 2, 3, dead. Okay, blank, blank, A, B. See, moves it all the way to the left. I don't know if that's desired behavior. Someone might want to tab in their name. We'll see. Okay, so that's how we do that. And then the other place we need to do this is not when we add scores, but I believe, where else does getLet get used? Here we go. When we're reading memory, the letters from memory into our thing, into our score list. So when this is done, we should do a, how much of that did I? Yeah. And we should just clear out the name here as well. For consistency, I'm missing the, there we go. The thing about making it pop to the done button, I've done it a bunch of times now, but I need to just show how I did it, is in, here we go. Okay, this looks a little different from how it did before. If you press the confirm button, which at this stage is button 4, I don't know which button that is on the controller, then if it is a new high score and the character, the currently selected one, is 10, then we add the new score, we boot, and we change the game state. These lines used to be at the bottom here, so they would run regardless of what happens, but we needed to create a situation where we didn't quit out of this game state. So, else if it is a high score and the currently selected letter is not the word done, then we just set it to done and we do not boot, we do not change the game state. If it isn't the high score, then it just runs this and reboots the cartridge with no changes to the score. So that behavior remains the same. So that allows us that now I need to get 4 points to demonstrate. I ended up writing a little function that clears my persistent memory to defaults. Now if I press the select button, it goes to there first. It doesn't immediately select, it doesn't immediately submit the score. And then if I press again, then it actually submits. Otherwise I can just move left and go make change. Oh wait, I misspelled my name, go back. And if I move to the right off of this, it goes to the done. Oh, how I padded this in on the left and on the right, actually only on the left, is that instead of using UI break, where I draw name input, I override UI break to UI name, and I add 14 pixels just to move it a little bit off from the left. And then everywhere in this function, instead of using UI break, I'm using UI name. That's still based on UI break. So if I go change that global at the top, it'll still move the entire UI left and right. And then the word done is just hard-coded to be at a nice distance from the name, because I know the length of the name is not going to change. So that's always going to be the same. Okay, next up, sound effects. Okay, so for the sound effect on the countdown, this is a little bit of a rework. So in updates countdown, where we actually, used to start the game, I'll bring up a thing of how that used to look. Changes we've made here is that instead of calculating the number that needs to display during the draw step, we now calculate it during the update step. So we're looking from 3, basically. We hijacked this from the draw countdown code and put it into updates. Then we only need to worry about whether the number is 0 or lower. Then game state 0 starts the game. But we've added in here sound effect 4, which is this one. And then there's also sound effect 3 that sounds like this. It's the same thing, just an octave. You'll notice down there, it's the same note. It's just set to a different key. Which we've added a global called countdown last, which is, as per usual, at the top of the file here, countdown start is our timer, and then countdown last starts as 3. Doesn't really matter what it is, because the first time that it hits this update countdown, it calculates the number. If, actually, you know what, I can make it something ridiculous. If countdown number is 0, we start the game. Otherwise, if the countdown number has changed at all, then we play the other sound. So I can actually make this start as something ridiculous. I might have to reset this at some stage. And then restart. Hey, it works. Cool, I'm happy with that. Okay, other sound effects we've created, seeing that I'm here, is for when we eat things, and this for when we die, which is the eating things sound, but longer tail and slower, and set to a lower pitch. But so to implement that, we go to where we eat, check eat. Here we go, fruit equals occupies. We check if the fruit is null, then eat the fruit. Fruit.eaten is true. Score goes +1. Sound effect for what number was that? Number 1. Oops. Where the hell did it go now? Wasn't check eat. Sound effect 1. And then the other thing was game over. Updates game. Check snake collide. In check snake collide, make game over is fx2. Copy this, because everywhere game state gets set to 1, we do that. There's a cleaner way to do this. We can make a local that says is game over equals to false, and then instead of doing this, we set is game over to true, and if it's true, then at the bottom of the thing we change our game state and play the sound. If snake collided, then if game over is just game over is true, this one is game over equal to true. This one is game over equal to true. So any conditional that will, so we can add other validation in here as well. If we add other things that can make us game over, we can add those into this and check them one by one. And then at the end of this function, before we bail, if is game over, then game state equals to 1, and play the sound effect, and then it's done. So Our snake should now make eating noises. It does. And it should make a die sound. Cool. Next up, some UI sounds. Okay, I've added UI sounds so that this can move back and forth. And then if you go to done and you select it, it's a slightly lower sound. Now I was dealing with the sound being interrupted by other things. Like for instance, the countdown. I had this idea of having the countdown. Okay, actually, you know what? To stop this sound from conflicting other sounds, instead of stopping the countdown timer bleeping, because it's going to interrupt other sounds anyway, I should just make these sounds on a different channel. Okay, never mind. Okay, here's what I've done. So, I'm not going to faff with the different channels, because then I also need to provide the notes that are playing, like on what note they're playing and how long they're playing before I can get to the channel changing thing. So what I've done is, you can now set your name to whatever you want to set it. ABC, go to the done button, and then when I select the done button, it plays the sound, but it shows the high scores first with, you know, your new high score listed in the score. And then if you press a button again, it restarts. How I did this was as follows. So, as previously discussed, we added this thing where if I press the confirm button, it is a new high score, and the currently selected letter is the 10, which is the done button. Then I add the new score, but I do not restart the game. If it is a new high score, and the currently selected letter is not the done button, then we just set it to the done button, and we play the same sound that we do. Oh, this is the submit sound. It's the same sound, just slightly lower. And this plays the same sound. If we're moving it to the done button, we play the same sound as we do when we change the selection or the letter or whatever. And then once we've submitted this add new score, once it gets submitted to the thing, is high score starts failing, because now our score is the same as a score on the scoreboard, which changes the conditions that makes it think that there is a high score. So this would fail, but it would sit and wait, showing the high score list as normal, as if I had died without hitting the high score, until I hit a button to continue, which means that my submit sound, it's weird that this is the reason we're doing the feature, but my submit sound gets to play and finish playing because it's a short sound. And then when on the next key press we restart the game, the first beep of the countdown can happen. But now I need to score 5 to demonstrate. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then chick chick. Whatever, press it the first time, press it the second time. It shows the scores, and then if I press it again, okay. I am happy with this. The game is now playable. So the next thing, and probably the last thing I want to introduce, is the idea of a combo meter at the top there. I'm just going to let it die. But up here, I want to do a combo where there's a certain time limit during which a progress bar runs down. And if I keep catching fruit while that combo meter is running, then I earn an extra point every time. So we build up a combo. And as soon as the timer runs out, then the combo goes down to 1 point per fruit again. That's the idea anyway, but implementing that is a whole different story.